we're not ready yet. One more sprint and it'll be perfect. And this boils down to what we say, waiting too long to launch. I've seen founders will take years, burn through runway, and then end up just launching way too late. And I'm reminded of the quote that Reid Hoffman said, if what you're putting out there isn't embarrassing, you probably waited too long. Now, you can interpret that in so many different ways, but the general principle is if you've waited to perfect it, perfection is the enemy of progress. How many times does this happen, Will?
Well, like the way I look at it is we keep thinking that what we're going to release is the final, like the retail final version, right? What we don't think about is of all the products that we use right now, I don't care if you're using Airbnb, Uber, Google, you name it, right? Like we're on Google version 1000 of Google. Oddly, it hasn't changed. But like the early versions of all those products were equally horrific. Like nothing was anything like it is now. Nobody releases that beautiful like packaged version that we expect. Our first release is always a steaming piece of shit. And that's fine. That's fine. Here's our worry. Our worry, which I get, is, well, if I release it and it's bad and people don't like it, then I'm done. No, your worry should be if you release it and anybody cares at all. If somebody cares enough to yell at you about it, thank God. That would be the best case scenario, right? Worst case scenario is you release it and no one cares. You get no feedback.
Well, and that's what I heard. I heard a concerning piece of feedback from a founder. Well, it's a feedback that they received. And I think an investor told them, you only have one launch, one shot at launching this properly. Wait until you get it right because you don't want to waste that one shot. And I said, that is probably the opposite of what I'd be saying. But, I said, okay, let's work with that sort of thing. But this is the type of stuff that we receive. Like, you only get one chance to make a first impression, et cetera. And that just doesn't apply to startups the same way.
Again, there's a million different scenarios, a million different startups. But generally it works like this. We think that when we launch this product, whatever the product is, that every customer will instantly know about it, every customer will try it, and every customer will weigh in on exactly that version at that moment. Here's what actually happened. We launch it, no one cares. That's like 99% of product launches. We launch, 3 people look at it, they give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and that is the end of it. If you're NVIDIA and you're launching the next graphics card and you spent 3 years telling everybody about it, and on launch date, it bombs, yes, you're totally screwed. That is a big problem. Right? But you're not NVIDIA. You're not launching the next 5090, right? Like you are a tiny company that no one's heard of that like 4 people will try the product. If you totally bomb, no one cares, which is both the problem and the opportunity.
Yes. And Will, this is credit to you. You've modeled this really well, even with the founder matching. We had a conversation about this just the other day where we said, well, what about this? What about that? And what about this scenario? And we're like, I don't know, let's just put it out there and see what people do with it. And the most important thing that we programmed in was a way to gain insight on whether people didn't care, didn't like it. So even though we know for a fact, everybody, that we are promoting a half-baked potato just publicly right now,
That's totally it.
We know it's going to break in so many different ways, or someone might have a bad experience. We're still putting it out there because that's so much more valuable to see how people are responding to the very first version.
There's a few like types of products that the first impression actually is the business. A restaurant opening, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like that's word of mouth. Like the most likely people that are going to go first are going to be like your first word of mouth nodes kind of, in that world. So yeah, of course that makes sense. But there are very few products that have that make it or break it out of the shoe kind of issue. And beyond that, what we often don't think about, like yesterday we launched member matching, okay? And some tiny fraction of our audience is going to see it and use it, etc. Today we released another update. Tomorrow we'll release another update. The next day release another update. It's not like we launch it and we're just done. We launch it and then we're constantly improving it so that by the time people actually go to use it or find it or anything, we're 3 more iterations into it anyway.
We got a comment in the audience saying, worst mistake I made, going it alone too long. And that's another contributing factor is you stay isolated by yourself. You stay in that echo chamber in your head. So even at least having someone close to you experience it so you can watch them experience it is going to be better than waiting so long by yourself to perfect it.
Ed, do you remember yesterday when we were doing the demo and our CTO was going through like all the functionality we built? And he's like, oh, by the way, like buried inside your account management if you go into this one link that you're never going to find, there's an entire system that can take your LinkedIn profile and build an entire profile out of it and score every single one of your skills and everything else like that. And you're like, you built this entire thing and it's like a, by the way, like buried feature. It's like a whole company. Yeah, right. And I say that to say, in our minds, that needed to be built before launch. But the fact that you would have never even known it was there, what happens is the delta here. And I think it's a huge product management mistake. What we think the customer needs and what the customer is actually going to do or pay attention to are worlds apart. We're like, well, it has to have this, and it has to have this, and it has to have this. We forget the customer's never seen this before. They have no expectations. They're going to run a search, and if anything comes back, they're going to be shocked. Now, Ed, we also built like an entire like Slack system where you can like real-time message people in the system. No one knows to expect that. Like, it's cool that it's there, but like, that didn't exist. And like the intro feature was just a modal that said, type this in, we'll let you know when they respond. You'd be okay. You wouldn't have expected us to have a fully baked Slack system, built there. And I think that's part of the issue. We wildly overcomplicate the user's expectations.
Absolutely. Great lessons to learn, and reminding everybody, this isn't our first rodeo. Will's done this 9 times, exited 5 times, I've done this 7 times, exited 2 times. So we've learned the hard way, and that's what we want to share with all of you.